ask anything you want. But Josh, anything you'd like to say before we kick it off?
Thank you for having me. I'm very grateful to be here. Yeah. I love this place. I have a big heart for Crass, so I'm honored to be here today with y'all.
Where are you from? How old are you? And what brought you to Crass originally?
I'm from Chicago originally. I'm 45. What brought me to Crass? I was laying in a friend's basement in Chicago after a night of debauchery. And I said, this life has no meaning. And these friends I'm with are not good, they're not good for me. And I said, I want to go and get an audio engineering degree. And I knew someone that had gone here that was doing really well, working at Trax in Chicago. And so I drew a timeline and I said, by this time, in 6 months, I want to be in Arizona. And I was. And that's what brought me here.
Insane. Thank you. Yeah, please applaud that. Thank you, Katie. Yeah, I think that's extremely robust to actually have a plan after a long night. And how long did that plan actually go? Like, how long did you map this whole plan out?
Well, so this timeline I drew is on my beer fridge back in New York, and it's 2003 to 07, and then in 07 I did another one from 07 to like 13, and that one's taped right underneath it on the beer fridge, and then in 13 to like 2019. But yeah, I feel like mapping it out really helped, making a plan. Because a lot of people are like, well, I'll do my best and good things will come to me. But you got to know exactly what you want. I think that's so important.
So when you brought this up to me, I thought it was really, really interesting because you literally made like a 10 to 15 year map. Where did you intern after Crass? Where was your...
Electric Lady in Manhattan.
Okay, so Electric Lady in Manhattan. Has anybody ever heard of that studio? Yes, okay, applause there, right. Yeah, sure. Worked his way up, I'll ruin the surprise, to operations management, right? You're at Electric Lady for about 3 years, and then of course on to the next timeline build, right?
Yeah, a few of the big things on that timeline were I wanted to work in film, and I wanted to quit smoking and drinking. And those were huge distractions that I was like addicted to. It's funny, like if you have some distractions in your life, I can tell you one thing that's true. When you kill that demon, when you say no to something, you're saying yes to something else. Just like when you say yes to something, don't forget what you're saying no to. And when I got rid of these really bad habits, I was just getting phone calls like, hey, I have opportunity for you. That's a spiritual observation, but it was so true. It was like, when I got rid of the bad things, it was like you're cleaning out your garage for a Porsche.
I think it's really, really interesting, man. I mean, mindset is something we talk about here often at Crass, but literally eliminating distraction is something that I feel like everybody could learn from.
It's so hard to do, too.
Right.
It's a real flex of the brain.
But you said that you wanted to get into film, and I'm curious to know exactly how, from your career trajectory from Crass to E-Lady to building... Now, I know this story because I was told earlier, building a bus with Pro Tools rigs on it to go and teach juvenile correction kids, right?
In the Bronx and throughout Brooklyn.
Which that's a whole, like, has anybody ever thought about doing that? Like, that's what I want to do when I grow up, right? That's pretty interesting. Back to the studio world, into getting into film. Can you give us your full, I guess, abridged 20-year story, man? What brought you here to this moment today?
Oh, man. Well, I should have been dead like 15 times. I was homeless in New York City for a while, sleeping under a bush. I got tuberculosis. I ended up living in Jimi Hendrix's apartment, sleeping in his bed on the 3rd floor of 52 West 8th Street. All kinds of random stuff. Got jumped by a bunch of teenagers, and then like going straight back into a 110-hour schedule at a recording studio. It was a wild ride, but one of the teachers here at Crass told me once, the difference between the kids that make it and the kids that don't is like who sticks with it? Who goes back home and moves back in with mom and dad and says, oh, this was too hard, or I can't make it. And who's like, who remembers that the only time you fail is when you quit. And I just kept thinking that over and over. I'm like, I have nothing, I'm living under a bush, but I have this internship at this great studio, so I'm not gonna go home. And I'm gonna keep at it. And then I would get some huge opportunity. I did a Maroon 5 album, and then a Guns N' Roses album, and then I had like nothing. And then I was like homeless again, eating garbage. And then I was like, well, I'm not gonna quit. So I got another internship at Looking Glass, and then I did some stuff at Power Plant, and I'm like, I would get these opportunities, But as soon as these jobs are over, I just had nothing again. And I'm like, well, I'm not going back home. It was never an option. And then I would watch like more and more of the kids that I graduated with like go back home. And I was like, man, I just kept remembering what he was saying. And when I was here, one of the teachers, Peg Leg Brett, I don't know if he's still, I love that guy. He was like my biggest cheerleader. He would say to the class, "What? You guys got to be like Josh. He sleeps under the new VR, which is now a SSL API board, but there was a VR in that room, and that's what kept me warm. I was like, I paid myself through this program, and I had no food, no money. It was crazy, and then so I would sleep here, and I just wanted to take advantage of this tiny blip that I had. So he said, you guys got to be like Josh, where you take advantage of this. You're here. You're the first one in and you're the last one out. And then when I was at Electric Lady, I did the same thing. I was the first one in and the last one out. And then I remember the owner, Lee Foster, said, he got all the interns together. He's like, look at Josh, he's the first one in and the last one out. And I was like, whoa, he's saying the exact same thing. It was like repetitive. I was like, wow, that's what got me this opportunity. I couldn't believe it. And so that's always kind of been my mantra, like, I'm going to give it my all. And I watch some kids quit, and that is the only definition of failure, I think. True failure. Because, when you make a mistake and fail, that's just you're learning something. That's tuition. Like, everybody fails. That's life. Right? Actually, they say you should put yourself in as many positions to fail as possible. Because every time you fail, you learn something. So celebrate your failures. You've probably heard that before. It's a cliche. But at the same time, the only real failure is quitting. So I just kept at it. And that's what led me to these opportunities. And then one day, the prop master for A Complete Unknown called, this is most recently, cut to today, and he's like, can you train Timothée Chalamet on how to work these mics, and do you have the mics? So all the mics you see, all the gear in that movie came from my studio, and then they referred me to the Bruce Springsteen, Jeremy Allen White movie, and I did that one, and then I just finished Marty Supreme, and I'm like hanging out with Timothée Chalamet, and I'm like, wow, I just didn't give up, is the only difference. So there's two parts of that. You got to have the knowledge, which you're getting at Crass, and you got to be a cool hang. If you're a negative person, you're in the wrong spot. This is service industry. So you got to have a smile, you got to be cool, can't let things get to you. Got to be like water on a duck's back, let it roll off. Swing at the good pitches, let the bad ones go, and just forget about it. So that's kind of my whole mantra.
That's awesome. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Yeah. So I'm curious, man. You had spent a considerable amount of time grinding, struggling, but finding like little bits of success along the way. Like, I was just telling you earlier, talking to a student of mine from last year who just got back from like literally touring the world, and she calls me and she's like, I plateaued. I can't do this anymore. And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, well, I haven't worked in like 3 weeks. I'm like, dude, you just got back from the world. Like, what are you doing, right? Was there ever a moment, like, with all these hardships where, like, you are literally working on a Maroon 5 record, where you were like, hey, maybe I am in the right place?
Yeah, and I think it's natural. Human nature is like, as soon as you do something great and then you're not doing something great, you're like, oh, it didn't work. I failed. And that voice in your head, if you take anything away from me today, take this. We all have this inner monologue in our head that's like, you should have done more. You could have done more. Leonardo da Vinci's last words on his deathbed were, I should have done more. Leonardo da Vinci. That's sad. And I think we're all, if you're here, you're not only an audio engineer, raise your hand, how many of you are also musicians? I.e. masochists. We're whipping ourselves with a cat of nine tails as we go to sleep at night. Why did I play that video game? I could have made a record that would have changed the world. That voice in the back of your head is just on repeat. They say that every human every day has 9,000 thoughts, bad thoughts, and only 600 good thoughts. And of those 9,000 bad thoughts, 20 of them are the same thoughts on repeat. That's crazy. We're like whipping ourselves. At the end of, we're staying up at night. Why did I do this? Why didn't I do that? Living in the past when the present is a gift. Like that's so hard. So anyway, this is what you should take. What I'm trying to say. That inner monologue, that voice. If you can just flex your brain and start making it a habit to tell that, to step away out of your body and say, hey, you, shut up and quit being a jerk to my friend. yourself. And give yourself the grace you give other people that don't deserve your grace. All your friends that they don't deserve how nice you are to them or what you give them. Forget about them. Give it to yourself for the first time in your life. Forgive yourself. Be nice to yourself. Stop listening to that voice. It's like you're not doing enough. That voice was like the devil trying to kill you. And once I finally cut that voice off and just kept working at it. I don't know how to tell you to do it, but you got to try and work at it like anything else. Practice and repetition equals success. Just keep doing it. If you can get rid of that voice, oh my gosh, the high highs and the low lows go away, and then you're just good. You're just steady. You're consistent. You're dependable. And it was a game changer for me. And I think a long way to answer your question is that was kind of the key to just leveling out. The nightmare of the roller coaster of emotion kind of went away. All that anxiety and depression that was just killing me just went away. I didn't need medication. I didn't need anything anymore. I didn't need alcohol or weed. I was just gone. And I've been sober, and I've been clean, and I've been happy and consistent. And I got rid of that voice telling me, I just stopped listening to it. I stepped back and said, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. Nope. Out. And it completely changed my life. And then you're able to help other people, and you're able to do a better job of where you're at. And that was a big one.
That's really interesting, man. Yeah, please applaud. Thank you. Earlier today we were talking about gratitude, right, and how gratitude is such an important thing. And I feel like within our industry, especially with the majority of us being musicians, right, artists in some capacity, we are hyper scrutinous on ourselves. That's like what makes us fit for an industry like this, is that we will do the same thing over and over again and just absolutely dissect it into infinity. But something that you did in the very beginning of this AES meeting, and something that I feel like would really help when it comes to like eliminating the negativity or letting your own fear get in the way of your own success, is really just finding a moment to practice gratitude. Like Josh said right when we started, think about where you were a year ago. How many people, which should be all of you, mind you, how many people were not here at Crass 1 year ago?
Wishing you were at a place like this.
Wishing that you were at a place like Crass, doing research, waiting to turn, anybody freshly 18 in here? Literally like waiting to get done with high school so you could just continue forward and do what it is you actually want to do. And now you're here. And I find that when the going gets really hard, taking a step back, when fear gets in the way and you start having a voice that's in your head that's eating you alive about something that shouldn't be, it's like, yo, you should be really grateful for where you are. And I find oftentimes that will snap me like nobody's business out of whatever negative cycle that is. And then I kind of am like, oh, wow. Like, you guys were in a multi-million-dollar room today. So when things like that happen, man, take a step back and be grateful for what it is that you have, what you didn't have last year, how much you've grown since then. Not only that, but I feel like that really puts into perspective what is to come, right? If you couldn't even imagine where you were last year, where are you going to be in a year from today?
Gratitude can be seen on a granular scale. Like, some of you walked to school. When I lived here, I rode my bike to school, and it was 118 out. It was crazy. The people that walk wish they had a bike. The people that have a bike wish they had a car. The guy who's got a car wishes he had a nicer car. That kind of like, I wish things were better for me, never stops. So at what point are we just grateful? Sometimes we set our goals so lofty, we forget to stop and think that we're living our dream right now. Whatever you have, someone else would kill to be where you're sitting. There's somebody out there right now that wishes they had this opportunity to sit where you're sitting right now, and you've got it. So at what point do we have like total gratitude? It should be right now. I mean, how far back do you want to go? Half the world lives on less than $2 a day, and a football-sized stadium of people starve to death every day. So how far back do you want to go to have gratitude? I am just like bowled over every day I wake up. I'm like, holy crap, I woke up today. And it's a journey, but I think the older you get, you're like, wow, I can't believe I'm here. It's pretty dope.
And speaking of, a journey, one thing that I always talk about here is not just having like your one chance. You could have done Maroon 5 and then be like, well, I did it. I'm going home, back to Chicago.
But I have their attitude, which I know it's like mixing a song. It's never really finished. What point do you say it's enough, right?
Yeah. It is a rinse and repeat, you guys. It is about finding longevity in the field from most of the time, many different aspects of audio. One thing that I wanted to bring up, Josh, talking about longevity, you clearly didn't do the same thing forever. You hopped around, you took a call, you built a bus, like you did a lot of different things. This is going to sound like a redundant question, but like how important is staying versatile within audio?
Warren Buffett says every successful person he knows has no less than 7 streams of income. Some teachers here even, I remember one of my teachers telling me, it's best to be good at one thing, be a master of that niche thing. And he said, I was the auto-tune guy, and when they needed the auto-tune guy, they came to me. But also, when they didn't need auto-tune, he wasn't the guy. It behooves you to be good at a lot of things. I think diversification is massive. Like if you're an artist and you're an engineer, maybe you also know how to build websites, and then you can charge for website maintenance, and then you can charge for graphics, and then you could charge for Google PPC, and then you could and diversification is great. Like when you hit your 30s, maybe you stack up some cash and you buy some realty property and you got some passive income. I think audio engineering is great, but it's also good if you know front of house and you know how to work in a commercial studio environment. Commercial studio environment is great, but it's also cool if you know how to score and you know how to do like sound production. And sound production is cool, but sound design goes hand in hand. So you should know how to do that. This happened to me actually. The owner of the studio wanted me to make this daughter's whatever. I'm at this huge studio and I'm like, I don't want to do that. And someone heard that and referred me to this huge job. I was like, wow, you never know what networking where it will lead.
I want to jump on that quick, because a lot of the times we, in any industry, whether it's a restaurant or you name it, any job, there are bad days, right? Can we just acknowledge the fact that not every single day is sunshine and daisies? I would actually argue that most of the days aren't, especially if you're looking through those lenses, right? A lot of the times when the going gets tough, the natural reaction is to turn around and quit, right? And you just said you got a reference from doing something that you didn't want to do, and I do know this story already. You recently finished a gig that you said, even after your full tenure, was one of the most difficult gigs you had to work because of the people that you were around, right? And every single day, you kept your head down, you worked hard, and you did the job. You left that job thinking that everybody there hated you, right?
Well, particularly the person I was underneath on this job.
What ended up happening?
Well, she was like the nastiest, most psychotic, toxic human I've ever met, which is why I won't say her name. And it was a $250 million film, and so I won't say what film it was, but she would always wear a Good Vibes Only t-shirt and then rip people's heads off. You probably know somebody like that, and you're just like, I wish I could just put a mirror on the irony of how nasty you'd be. But I didn't let her. Well, she did get to. I can't do this chip challenge that I want to do because I have 2 ulcers. But from that movie, and I have 2 ulcers and a hernia inside my duodenum from this film I just got off, and it almost killed me. And the woman who's ripping my head off with the Good Vibes Only t-shirt, I did it. I got through, and I didn't let her. I didn't walk off set. Last week she just called me and recommended me for Bad Day with Cameron Diaz and Ed Helms. It's this Netflix show, and I'm like, what? This crazy female just recommended me for a job? I was like, I am living in the Twilight Zone. But she's probably got a toxic relationship with everybody. Don't ever forget this. Other people's problems are not your problems. Trying to impose justice in the world is total self-destruction. If you're spiritual, even a religious person, it is not your job to fix every problem around you. You will kill yourself. Which I always thought, I'm here to bring justice. I believe in justice, so therefore I exemplify justice. I almost killed myself. It caused great anxiety it's not your job. You can't fix everybody's problem. So I just gave her the best I had and let her be her. And at the end of the gig, since she's probably has attachment relations with everybody, she's like, well, he did it what he was supposed to do, so he's good. I ended up on her good list. I couldn't believe it. And she recommended me for this huge opportunity, which I never would have thought in a million years this woman liked me, let alone wanted me to work with her more. So
you just really never know what is going to come about any job that you do, and staying versatile and showing up and doing it with a good attitude, and knocking the job out of the park is going to lead to more work.
Calmness lays all errors to rest. If you can stay calm and not react to other people's craziness, you are the master of your domain. The 10th level of enlightenment in Buddhism, you know what it is? To be unaffected by your outside world. You are a master of your domain. I'm reading Marcus Aurelius right now. It says, don't let your emotions rule the show. Here's times when to be silent during intense emotional moments, when someone else is venting, when you know you're about to say something you regret. That's the time old Josh is like, no, justice. No, you're not going to speak like that. I don't know who you think you are. I don't care who you are. You're not going to speak to me like that. New Josh is just silent. Let them expose themselves. Let them get caught with their pants down in front of everybody else. I'm good. I'm over here in the shadow. I'm like, okay, you do you. And I'm going to do a great job. And that's it. It's not my job anymore. I've realized that. It took me a long time to realize that.
Right. Well, as you said, somebody else's problem is not your problem, right?
Exactly.
Everybody is autonomous in some sense. They have their own thing. And the way I say it in my department, because, as you can imagine, we get a lot of phone calls from folks from all over the place, and I always say, like, hey, lack of preparation does not constitute urgency on my side. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if it was a lack of preparedness that, whether, somebody calls in, I need an intern in 1 hour or else I can't run my whole show. Where are they? I'm like, hello? And it's one of those things where you really do have to kind of practice that emotional resilience when it comes to working with difficult people at times. Let's see, man. Let's talk about the mic. What did you bring? Why'd you bring it?
Oh, I don't know. Did anybody see that Bob Dylan movie with Timothy Chalamet?
Yeah.
Did you remember this mic? It was the only one I could fit, but it's a crazy story because it's about it's your story. Like, how many of you didn't do well in high school? Be real. Or how many of you are like me and just really didn't do well? How about half the room? And I would venture to guess more that are ashamed to raise their hand. I dropped out of high school with 7 study halls and a gym class. Got my GED. Everyone told me, this kid's a loser, but I was in this band and we were doing really well. And I was like, hey, I'm writing all this music. We were touring with this band called MXPX. I don't know if you ever heard of them. And we played with this other band, Sixpence None the Richer, and we were playing these shows, and I'm like, hey, I'm not a loser, I just got to figure out my vein, what's good for me. And I remember when I was leaving that high school, I was so disappointed because standardized testing had failed me entirely. I'll also say I did really well at this school, so what does that say about standardized testing, right? It says a lot. But anyway, I digress. Vocational schools, they're just amazing because you're nurturing what you're good at. So I'm leaving the high school, and I've never stolen as much as a pack of gum in my life. I'm a spiritual person. What goes around comes around. I'm not a thief. I've never stolen anything except this mic. So I'm walking out. I'm walking out of I'm walking through the back of the school on my very last day, being like escorted out, and I just snatched this mic off the podium. I like broke it off the podium, put it in my pocket because I was like so mad at them for failing me. And I've had this mic for so long. I'm 45 years old. I've had that in a drawer since I was 17. And then on this Bob Dylan movie, that was a $250 million film. There was a lot of money going around. A huge amount of money going around. Everyone on that movie made a crap ton of cash. And I made a lot of money on this stupid mic, but I always felt bad about it. So I was like, well, I got to clear my karma. I got to do something about that. I'm going to call my old school and see if there's something I could do. Because I had made a lot of money with this stolen mic. There's I think there's like 70 different mics. I'm in Mix Magazine this month. Make sure to check it out. I talk about these mics. And I think I taught this story in I can't remember. There's a 5-part series on me and the mics I've been using on these films. But anyway, so I reached out to the high school and I'm like, I stole this mic. And they were like, oh, well, why'd you do that? And so I told them the whole story, how they let me down. And they were like, oh, well, don't worry about it. I'm really sorry you had this terrible experience. Whatever, it was a long time ago. I said, no, I want to clear, what can I do? So they said, well, talk to this guy. He works in the radio there's like a radio club. They have like a radio station. Long story short, I ended up donating some cash, bought them some iPads, helped them out. They sent me like some T-shirts and hats, which I'll use to like start a fire next time I go camping. But yeah, it was really cool because I was able to use creativity to give back and like rectify this spiral of negativity that really this mic represents. So I always knew I wanted to do the right thing and turn it into a positive thing, and I was able to. And now they got some new stuff at the old high school I went to, and hopefully it's not a John Hughes movie like it was when I was there, getting turned upside down in a garbage can.
Can we, first of all, that was wild. Can we have an applause for that, please? Thank you.
And you'll do the same thing. You'll pay it back. You'll pay for it.
So that was from high school, and that is featured in the Bob Dylan film.
Yeah, when he's in the cafe scene singing, it's into that mic.
That's
what
really.
kind of mic is it?
It's an old electro voice. If you've seen the Johnny Cash, any like old Johnny Cash fans or Sun Records, like Elvis and Johnny Cash, they were obsessed with this mic. It's the 664, and it's actually a cheap mic. I mean, it's only worth like $300 or $400. The 666 is worth like $1,200, and that's the one Johnny Cash loved. But it's like weighs a ton. It's an old podium like broadcast mic.
So, if you wouldn't mind, man. I mean, you talked about your mics being in the movie. How did you get that role, that position within that film? Like, how did that come to be? How did they just hit you up for a mic collection? If you wouldn't mind, I'm very curious to know
Sure.
how that came to be.
I've been in New York long enough, like I said, I just never went home. And I just kept plugging away, so I had, I mean, is 1 + 1 2? Yes. If you stick around and keep networking and going out, will things happen? Yes. So, 1 + 1 is 2. I just kept networking, and I kept going to record release parties and talking to bands after the show, and are you looking to make a record, and da-da-da. Just, eventually I got to know, I know like most of the studio heads in New York, because I've been doing it for 25 years there, and there's only a few guys that have like some of the mics that I have, and I've been blessed I own some insane mics, like Neumann M49s and AKG C24, which is a stereo C12, pretty crazy mic, and like all these cool mics. So I've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of microphones, and I've got a lot of outboard gear, and so one of the prop masters on the film knew some other studio guy, and you know what? I'm telling the surface story. The more spiritual side is that I was in the middle of quitting a really bad habit, and I just kind of said a prayer, like, if I'm going to do the hardest thing I've ever done, I know something good will happen, and that's why I'm doing it. I'm giving something else. I'm saying no to something because I want to say yes to something else. And I just kind of sat back and waited, and then the phone just kind of rang. Is that weird? That's kind of the way it worked. I know that sounds like hokum, like some new age nonsense, but it kind of works like that. It's the selfless people that like good things happen. And, I know bad things happen to good people and vice versa also, but there is a level of chaos that I don't pretend to understand. But for me, I just like made this decision and like threw out all this stuff that was like causing me inner conflict over this addiction, and then like the phone just rang and said, "Do you want to work with Timothy Chalamet on his new movie?" I was like, "What?" But I knew it was coming because I like prepared for it. I cleaned out the garage for the Porsche, so that's kind of how that opportunity happened. But the surface story is, they were renting gear for me because I'm a vendor, and I had some like old tape machines, some Ampex, like you ever seen those brown leather suitcase tape machines from the 50s? You know those? And they pull the amps out and they convert them into mic pre's. Those old tube heads, like the 600 series. Anyway, how many gearheads in here, by the way? Not many? Few? No. Well, I am like a historian. I'm like a super nerd, gear nerd. Anyway, so I had this gear, and they called me, and they were all standing around. I didn't know them, they didn't know me. I was just dropping off some gear for the film. And they were looking at an iPad. Todd Maitland, who's a 6-time Academy Awards sound production film guy, he's got Lifetime Achievement Awards. He's one of the biggest names in the biz. He was looking at an iPad, and he was like, "Oh, this U87, we should use this old reference photo from Dylan." And I said, I was in the back of the room, that's not a U87, that's a C38, Sony. And they all kind of turned around like, "What? Who's this guy?" And I was like, yeah, you can tell because blah, blah, blah. And I just pointed out why it's a C38. So went to Google, pulled up C38. I said, oh, he's right. He said, well, what about this mic? The C12. I said, that's not a C12. That's actually blah, blah, blah. And then they were like, can you be here Monday? So it was kind of the amassed knowledge that really got me the job. But I'd like to think it goes deeper than that.
We applaud that. Thank you. Yes. It's such a curious thing, you know, and we were speaking on this earlier. It's like, Josh was telling me that he had like studied all of his favorite engineers, and he really took a deep dive into what happened, how did they get to where they are, and like the one commonality was, what was it?
There is no commonality. Every single one. I look up like 50 of my top engineers, and they all said, oh, it was the most random thing. Went to this pool party and like the gardener knew this guy. Like it was crazy. Like there is no way, you could.
Right. Which I find curious, right? Because like you guys hear different anecdotal phrases, like luck is timing meets preparation, right? You know what I mean? And I have one of my own personal ones. It really revolves around patience and requiring patience to be successful. Like nothing just happens overnight. It generally takes effort and time investment. And literally just something like that, where like it just so happened that you dropped off this stuff, and just that one, well, this is actually this, turned into a very large role with this picture.
But there is a commonality there. I was available and I was on it as soon as they called, and I think that's the difference. Like it's the guy that's there, when everyone else goes home, he's still there.
That goes back to it. It's like you chose to be in a position to where you were in a spot where things like that happen. And I feel like, I hear this from a lot of students here at Crass, where it's like, well, what if my internship doesn't turn into a job and I'll just go home? And it's like you're really shutting the door on a lot of other opportunity when you just decide, again, like you said earlier, to go back and live in mom and dad's basement.
You only
right?
fail when you quit.
Right. So it's like you really never know. And I don't know. I'm a big proponent in finding any kind of work you can, being versatile in your skills, and being present, being available, because those. I was talking to a buddy of mine who's high up at a record label, and he does a lot of radio promotion. And he's like, well, as you know, man, like people find success in this industry, really, if they stick around, if they're available. The more you propagate your name out into the industry as an industry player, I'm an engineer, I'm an engineer, I'm an engineer. You say that for 5 years, people just see you as that. You just become that. And something that we talked about earlier today as well, it kind of reminded me of it when you talked about like, kind of eliminating the negativity within your mind is literally developing micro habits, man, little by little every single day. Like, what does being an engineer mean to you? What does being successful mean to you? And can you practice that at a microscopic scale every single day to the point where it literally just becomes who you are? It's like, people who like to exercise. Anybody like to exercise in here? Anybody exercisers? It takes a while to develop that habit. You don't just get it overnight. You don't just do your New Year's resolution and decide to go to the gym every single day. If you do that, you do one session for 8 hours, you get so burnt out, you're never going to go again because you're so burnt, right? But if you do little by little every single day, you are literally building tangible, habitual success within your own self, which makes other success seem more achievable. At that scale. It's really just a matter of mindset and perseverance. It's pretty wild.
And you also have to carve out distraction, I think, to make that time. Like, I'm a gamer, and I also used to have other undisclosed bad habits, and I had to carve them out. And that is super tough. You have to say, I'm not, or I'm a gamer, so I'm only going to spend this amount, I'm only going to allow myself this amount of time,
Right. Some sort of control over that, so you don't,
I don't need to tell you how much of a waste of a time like doom scrolling is, but like replace that with like watching some YouTube videos on like compression ratios on drums.
Right.
That's a far better use of your time.
Another good thing, social media folks out there, I don't know this is something that I feel like is valuable for everybody in this room, is like either have a separate social media where all you do is you go and you find engineering or audio-based posts, and you like them and you comment on them. It could be a shadow profile or it could be your personal one, but the next thing you know, everything within your feed is only audio and music, and you are designing that to be shown to you at all times. So you don't see like the crazy nonsense that's on social media when it comes to the social things, or AI slop or what have you, where all of a sudden this person's head flies off, but they're still smiling. Is this AI, right? Like anything like that is like absolutely distracting to what it is that you truly want to do. And if you are disciplined enough, you can truly make sure that that is the only thing that you interface with. And with that, again, with the power of quantum mechanics, you will literally only see that. That is what you will see. You almost practically train yourself, which is a very curious thing.
In quantum physics, they call it superpositioning. The infinite amount of possibilities that exist in the universe bend around your actions, your thoughts, your will. Superpositioning means that all molecules in the universe will like bend around your decisions. So, in an obvious and a non-obvious way.
It's a really, really cool thing. And it sounds like magic, but if you say quantum physics, it sounds like science, right? And maybe it's a mixture of both. Maybe it's like some sort of magic that we can't necessarily comprehend. But
I also think that so many theologians and philosophers and scientists for thousands of years have been saying, what you think about, you bring about. What you dwell upon, you become. You know, you're a beacon, and what you send out, you receive. If you're negative, what do you think you're going to get?
Right. For me, it kind of clicked when I was studying Cycle 1 guy. This is for you, man. When I was studying waveform theory. It was like, okay, if everything moves in a wave like this, and everything has an equal and opposite reaction, is it possible that a brain wave has a frequency that we could maybe not perceive based on our senses?
Jimi Hendrix was studying this when he died. A lot of people, if you want to go down the conspiracy theory hole, he was thinking about even quitting music to pursue the electric church, which is he realized these frequencies are emit from the body. He found a scientist who proved it, and he was going to open these like healing churches where they just use sound frequencies to heal people because they had proven in the 70s it was possible. But anyway, go ahead.
It's a really interesting thing, whether it's speculative or whether it's just coffee table talk. But the thing is, and this kind of goes with proving or unproving, you kind of can't do either. And if something like that does exist, to literally have the power within your own mind and your own hands to literally create what you want from your life, it'd be really curious to try it, I would suggest.
And for those of you who are thinking this is the nonsense part, I would just say, well, yeah, try it.
What's the Henry Ford? Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. What's the Henry Ford quote that we've been
Whether
saying?
you think you can or you can't, you're right.
Think about that, you guys. Whether you can or you can't, you're right. You'll never know if you don't try. And literally, here we are.
It's all that cheesy stuff that you see on Instagram that like gives you a little tiny blip of motivation and then it just kind of goes away. It's like, what was it? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, blah, blah, blah. That goes back to just getting out there.
Right, and if you don't, and I realized this when I was starting to freelance and mixing. It's like all this, well, nobody's hitting me up for mixes, right? I got all this stuff, nobody's hitting me up for mixes. Does anybody in the planet actually know that I do that? No, but you have to kind of put yourself out there and let people know what it is you do. And you will get a ton of no's. You will face that failure, but within that failure, you learn lessons, and within those lessons, you find success.
And I think Crass offers something unique in that you don't really have any major label industry connects. I don't know, any of y'all friends of Lil Wayne? I don't know. Maybe. But for the most part, you don't. But you do. Look to your left and to your right. These people in this room are going to go on to work at major label studios or production houses, or they're going to be in the industry. And they told that to me when I was here, but I don't really pay attention. And then I'll look up these kids later. I'm like, wow, they are doing it. That's your ground zero for networking is this room right here. It's your classes. Those students are legitimate networking opportunities. I mean, not to say someone is an opportunity, but I don't really have I have like one or two close friends, but I have a lot of business acquaintances who would say that I'm like a good friend, but I think this is your networking circle.
I agree, and that's something that I feel like a lot of instructors, including myself, I mean, you guys, everybody in orientation, if you could remember that far back, I mean, before the break, I know it was so long ago, but it's literally about finding your sense of community and network here at Crass, right? Whether it is the students that you are in a cohort with, or it's a cycle above, or a cycle under, like you guys, it's difficult for me on occasion to see the larger picture of all of these students who literally just graduated last year, right? We speak about where you were a year ago and all this stuff. Seeing their success now and then remembering where they were here at Crass, like in cycle 7, where they're like, oh man, this is tough. And I'm like, dude, like, you have no idea what could happen in a year. And I see it happen all the time. And one of the things I mentioned is literally be kind to everybody, because if you live your life without scathing a single bridge between anybody, you are being spoken about in good light behind your back. Everybody talks about everybody behind their back, whether it's, oh yeah, I ran into so-and-so, it was great to see them. That's not like a threatening, don't talk about me behind my back. That is you saw somebody and it was good to see them. Or it could have been the converse, where it's like, ooh, yeah, I don't know, I hope they're doing okay. Your guys' goal is to make sure that everybody has a positive thing to say about you when you are not around. Because as you venture into this industry and your name starts to spread as a player in a studio, a player as an engineer in the field, a certain niche, whether it's auto-tune or being really sharp at Pro Tools or what have you, if you go through and not burn a single bridge, every conversation that's had about you when you are not around is a positive one, which literally shapes the way somebody perceives you without even knowing who you are.
And I'll add to that and say, nobody really remembers the things that you say, but everybody remembers the way you made them feel when you were with them. So if you bring in your bad day to this place, it doesn't matter the things that you say, but they'll remember that way you made them feel. And if you come in and you're the guy consistently, the man or woman who's smiling, positive, people will remember that. That's what they remember. So
you mentioned, like, in your free time trying to find certain like content creators or like channels and stuff to watch instead of just doom scrolling. What do you have any channels that you'd recommend?
Oh yeah, I got the best YouTube channel of audio engineering you've ever heard of in your life. It's called JML Recording. Write that down. I want to see everyone with a pencil right now.
It is pretty good.
JML Recording. Just JML Recording on YouTube. I only have 15,000 subs, but help me out. Spread the word. It's all about gear and audio engineering and like DIY culture and community, and like you can post your stuff, ask questions to other engineers there, and there's a video on like all the gear I used in Bob Dylan and Springsteen and Marty Supreme and everything that's going on. But yeah, JML Recording. You know who you should be looking at? Look at, because there's 90% of YouTube is like someone who just learned something and that thinks they should make a YouTube video about it. And it's like they're doing it for the second time and they're like, oh, here's how you do it. They're just like regurgitating something they haven't mastered yet.
How could you out them like that, man?
I know.
That's a secret.
So the best people to be looking at on YouTube are the masters. Look at Russell Elevato and Rich Costi and whoever you look up to. And most likely they'll have a whole bunch of YouTube videos. And I go to the masters and watch them on YouTube.
You know, you actually just brought up something interesting. I was with a colleague and a mixing engineer a few years back, and he was talking to the student body, and he said, how many people in here want to be engineers, right? Of course, naturally, everybody at Crass raises their hand. And he's like, okay, great. Name your top 5 favorite engineers. And surprisingly, it's kind of hard to do. The people behind the scenes that we say that we want to be, right? So do that. Research who works on your favorite records.
And you know what I do? I go find that person and just like holler at them. One of my favorite success stories is Ben Kane, who worked at Electric Lady for a while. He was just an intern, and he got the internship by walking up to the door and knocking and saying, can I be an intern? And they said, yes. And then we were interns, and then he really loved Questlove and what Russell Elvato's doing with Soulquarians. So he, you know, we did the Alicia Keys album. I worked on the last D'Angelo album with him, which he won an Oscar for. We worked on Black Messiah, and Ben Kane, you know how he got his job? He now owns Electric Garden in Brooklyn. If you look up Electric Garden, that studio is so sick. Anyway, that's a $3 million studio. He was just like me, homeless on the street. You know what his success story is? He was like, I love Questlove. And we were in New York. He's like, I bet Questlove is here. So he found out, he like looked at his Instagram or something, and he was just walking down the street. He's like, hey, Questlove. He walked up to him, this is the story. If there's an interview I have on my YouTube channel with Ben Kane about this story. He tells it better than I do. And he goes, Questlove. And he was with like 2 beautiful women. And he said, hey, I'd love to work for you. Can I work for you? And Questlove said, okay. And then he did. And now he's a millionaire. So that was pretty cool. And you can do that. There's an idea.
Right.
Honestly, I know a lot of people that have that story. And you would think it's like this convoluted, magical mystery tour to success. You just like walk up to somebody. Everybody loves talking about themselves. Let me tell you that. So you said, I love that you did this. And, you know, if they've got the time. So Questlove said, yeah, sure. Actually, I'm going to be an electric lady. You should come by. Tell him, you know, da-da-da. I'm going to be there on Tuesday. So he did. And now owns Electric Garden Studios.
Well, it's one of those things, man. You know, you could get in your head about what isn't happening so easy, right? Like, oh, I can't go do that because if I did, then this would clearly happen. And then if I did that, nobody would ever this, that, and the other. And those negative spiraling thoughts would literally prevent somebody from doing something as simple as saying hello to somebody, which is a curious thing, man. I mean, you know, just the social psychology that is experienced within life in general, also of course within like the art business is just so you can't really put your finger on it.
Well, they say the fear of failure is greater than the will to succeed. And I know what that feels like. Like, I wouldn't walk up to Questlove and say, can I work for you? Why not? Like, you came here, you're spending thousands of dollars, and you want to work in the industry, you could do it.
Right. You guys, could we please have a round of applause for Mr. Jones?
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me.
There actually was a second question in the back. Yes, sir.
Yeah, what's up?
Yeah, I mean, my question's pretty specific, so.
Sure.
If you go for that big studio that everybody knows about, where you might just kind of be in the background a little bit, or do you shoot for something where it's like, it's a tiny studio, but you're gonna get your hands on everything, but then, you know, like, I'm kind of in that place right now where I'm thinking about my future, so I thought maybe.
That's a great question. For those that didn't hear, you said, should I go for a big LFC studio, that means large format console, or like a smaller boutique studio where you probably get more hands-on time? And certainly when everybody leaves, you can use the gear, which is not the case at these massive commercial studios. And my answer is, what do you want?
The reason I'm here is to transform into having a career, like a full-fledged career in the industry.
But where? Can you see yourself at like Studio G in Brooklyn, or do you want to be an Electric Lady? Like, what do you want?
If I close my eyes and I think about it, I want to be, I mean, Studio G is almost the top of my list. Like, I want to be at a smaller studio like that, working with artists myself, but I don't want to hold myself back just because I'm staying in that lane. So
That's a brilliant mindset, and it's awesome you're asking those questions. I think you're opening the door to a statement that I would want everyone to hear, and it's say, what do I want to do? Will I be happy on this side of the glass? Will I be happy working 90 hours a week and not having a relationship for a little while I'm giving 110%? Will I be happy running a patch bay at Electric Lady and having no creative input? Or do I want to work in a smaller studio where I will be working more directly with the artist? Like, what do you want? Have you really stopped and said to yourself, like, where do I really want to go? Some people, most of us, including myself, you're just kind of floating and you're like, the universe will show me. That is the wrong mentality. What do you really want? Maybe when you go home tonight, write it down. Does any of you journal? Oh my gosh, every therapist on the planet will tell you to journal and all the benefits you get from it. Start asking yourself questions. Write it down. What do I really want to do here? What do I want to get out of this? And then pursue that. Make a plan. That's the vision casting all these philosophers talk about. Write down what it is that you want, and then just do it. And then you will become the thing that you're doing. But don't do the wrong thing, because then you'll become what you don't want. So stop and think, well, what do I really want? Like, you're asking me a question that only you know the answer to. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes we have to ask questions of discovery to figure out who we really are. And I'd like to play a quick little game. Can I borrow this microphone?
Please.
Who would like to play a game with me? Come up here. Come on up. Watch this. Are you ready? This is called discovery. This is how you sell to the client what they want, how to achieve what they want. Ready? What's your favorite color?
Favorite color, let's go with orange.
Orange. Give me 3 words that describe orange.
The fruit orange.
No, 3 words to describe orange.
Describe it.
Adjective.
Warm, like fiery, and I don't know why, but like antique is coming to me.
Which of those 3 is most important to you?
Probably antique.
Why?
because I think we should look to the past to see what we need to do in the future.
This man's just told you his core belief system from his favorite color.
That was good.
What do you really want? You know? That took me a long time, but once you sit down, write it out, figure out, who are you? What's your core belief system? Ask yourself, what's your favorite color? Do what I just did. Like, you need to figure this out. You can't walk out this door and just hope that Connor's going to figure it out for you. He ain't. As talented as he is, he's only really working for people who work for themselves.
Thanks, Josh. I appreciate that, man. And you guys, round of applause. That was brilliant.
Any other questions? Yeah.
So this might also be kind of a hard question to answer, but so let's say you got to internship, you end up not getting a job after that. It would be easy to like quit and go home. If you decide you don't want to do that, what is the first thing you do to kind of get back into things? Do you start like, I don't know, like cold emailing different studios? Like do you try to reach out to your network? Like how do you get back into it?
All of the above. I think when it's time to pivot and you might just do that, here's the thing, like we change our mind. The more, as we go through life, you might even decide audio engineering isn't it. And I know Connor doesn't want me to say that, but things change, you grow, you evolve, and you might say, I want to pivot. And he told me a story at lunch about a woman who pivoted and now she's managing bands when she went to school for production, and it worked out. And that happens. But one of my professors here told me the difference between those who make it and those who don't, the kids who grow up into adults and the kids who stay kids, is how you deal with inevitable and variable problems. There is always a problem. Nothing ever goes right. Welcome to being a human being. Nothing goes right. Ever. It's your choice to put a smile on your face to deal with it, though. I love problems. That's why people like working with me. Because I love solving problems. It's fun for me to do that. At first it caused me great anxiety, but like I said, I stopped listening to that voice telling me all the things I'm doing wrong. So no, quit being a jerk to Josh. We're not doing that. He's cool. And I started giving myself grace, got rid of that voice. And now when I wanted to pivot, like maybe it doesn't work out. You go to an internship and it doesn't work out. The pivot is everything you just said. I mean, like Ben Kane did the story. He knocked on the door, said, can I be an intern? He said, yes. You might get 10 no's. You might get 1 yes. According to Google, you get 3% yield on every investment you make. So if you knock on 100 doors, 3 will say yes. So be ready to put in the work. But I don't know, are you strong and are you worth it and are you capable? Yes, every single one of you are. So, when and if you decide you're going to pivot to something different, or when a job expires and runs out, time to knock. And keep going and reach out to your network and do everything you can. And we live in the age of AI where we have we can leverage AI to help offer up some ideas. There's so many different conduits for solving that problem. But if it was me, yeah, I would start knocking, calling my network, creating opportunity, because it's certainly not going to come to you. There's an old Buddhist adage that says, a fool kneels at the edge of a river and begs God to get across. The wise man stands up and uses his 2 arms to build a bridge or a boat. You all have there's a lot of people in the world that don't have, which is opportunity. You live in a first world country with resources and 2 working arms and legs. So build a bridge, build a boat. Anybody else? Yeah.
How do you overcome your vices? Like you said, you used to smoke, you used to drink, and that was on your journey. How did you overcome things like that to focus on audio?
You said, how do you overcome your vices that are the distractions? Ooh, that's a tough one. I don't pretend to be a wise man. I don't know what each and every one of your individual answers are to that question. Mine, man, I want to get deep and tell you, but I don't know if it's appropriate to say what I went through. So I'm not going to do it. But I will say, for me, what's a PC version of this story? I saw this picture of myself as a baby in my lowest point right after COVID. And it was one of the dips, the pivot dips, where I was like, oh, it's not working out. life is so unfair. I was pointing fingers at myself and at everyone else. And then I saw this baby picture of me my dad took when I was a little baby. I had these big eyes and this crazy newsboy's hat. And it was staring at me, and I just froze. And it was like this picture was talking to me like, this is what we grow up to be? This pathetic, hunched over crybaby, like with all these addictions that can't control his own life? This man who's the farthest from a master of his own domain as can be. And I just stood there staring at this picture, and it was enough to shake me awake and make a change. And the first few months were the hardest months of my life. And then I just was like, well, if I did today, I can do tomorrow. And then I woke up the next day, I'm like, if I could just do today, I can do tomorrow. And then I woke up the next day, and each day was easier until I was exactly who I wanted to be. But none of this is easy. Y'all, life is so tough, but it's so worth it, and it's so beautiful once you get there. And the planet was on fire for 22 million years between one of the ice ages. I mean, things take a long time. It's not an overnight thing. It's a grind. But, God gave you what it takes to do it. And you've got 2 arms and 2 legs. You can get up and build a boat. You just gotta put in the work. And Connor's there to support you. Your teacher's there to support you. But again, you can't steer a car that ain't moving, So that's what helped me.
Thank you.
Yeah. Who else? This is fun. Yeah.
I was kind of wondering the same thing as he asked. Were there any specific habits that you used to replace the old ones that weren't good for you?
If you're that's a great question. He said, what habits did I replace? And it's like when you say yes to something, you're saying no to something. Be aware of what you're saying no to when you say yes. If you have an addictive personality like I do, or if you're just getting rid of something that took a lot of your time, you're going to replace that time. You're now going to have more time. Honestly, things like gaming and drugs and porn and these bad things in our lives, when you replace them, you now have more time for good things. So you're right. I replaced it, and I poured myself into gear. When I was at this school, I really didn't care about gear. I wasn't into gear like I am now. I am a super nerd with gear. This may happen to you in your 30s. You might fall down the gear hole. Although everyone has a different story. This is my personal story. But for me, instead of doom scrolling and just spending time gaming and whatever, or these bad habits I had, I started pouring myself into just gear. I became obsessed with it. I started collecting it. I started amassing all this gear, going to studios, just watching videos, YouTube videos about gear, and then I would go out and find those people and talk to them about it. And that's, for me, it was gear. And gear kind of saved my life. It's kind of silly.
Yeah.
But it's true. But yeah, you're right. You need to replace it. When you get rid of one habit, that feeling inside, that addictive feeling will still be there. But you can pour it into a good thing. But again, it goes back to intention, what we were talking about. What do you want? What do you want to be? What do you want to do? Figure that out. Pour that energy into that. That's optimum. That's you version 2.0.
That was good. Thank you.
All right, y'all. Let's do one more. Does anybody want to do a question to knock it out of the park?
How much do you make?
How much do I make? My rate in this industry is $125 flat. So if I'm going to get you a cup of coffee, or I'm mixing your next opus, I charge $125 an hour with a 6-hour minimum. Do not do anything for free. Even early in your career, your cousin calls, say, buy me lunch. If a band is scraping together the change, or a group, you can charge something. You're worth something. Maybe even if you're bartering your time for a piece of gear. But it's best not to do it for free. $125 is the average on the East Coast where I'm at. I'm non-union. So working 16 hours a day on film at $125 plus all the rental gear was pretty nice. Starting out, do you have a number on that? What's the starting salary for Once you get hired as a GA at a studio,
It's so subjective because if you get hired somewhere for independent contract work, it's a day rate situation, and then that might.
well, what about are you talking about studio?
Per se.
I think studio, okay, so it goes like intern, GA, which is general assistant, and then assistant, and then engineer, and then like producer. I think GA at a new studio is like 30, 40 an hour. That's like typical, it's not a lot. But the idea is that you get picked up. So like when I was an intern, everyone around me was getting snatched. Like Kanye took this guy, Rich Pasty took that guy. And then they're making crazy money. That's the idea. And that's at the large format console studio. The littler studio might not have that. And a good pay GA is like 60, 70 an hour. And then like freelance, you're around 100. And I've been told at 125 I'm kind of cheap, but it also gets me a little more work than the guy that's more than 125. So it's up to you to decide what do you want.
I always equate this to the concept of a free market, man. Especially New York, which is vastly different from Los Angeles, mind you. Like there are no GAs in LA. Like that doesn't exist. That exists in New York, which is really curious. Same thing with like Nashville. Like the industry itself and how people get paid is very different. But in terms of a free market, man, you have to find your own worth and find your own value. Have a price and stick with it. If you say, hey man, I'm gonna do your song for $150, and the person says, no, that's too expensive, the gut reaction for somebody who's trying to make a sale and actually do this for a living says, okay, what about 125? Okay, what about 100? And what you're doing is you're minimizing your actual product and your own worth. So if you say, no, dude, 150, okay, you can't afford it, cool, man, no problem. We'll keep you in the loop for your next one if you want to do it. And you go and you try to find other people who will pay that price. You are now finding a client pool of people who are used to paying you that price. And if you do a good enough job, you have repeat consistent clients who give reference to you, and that is now your rate, nearly indefinitely, until you maybe get too busy and say, hey, I'm really busy, you guys, if you want this expedited, I could, it'll be 200 for this, but it really does have to start with you personally choosing what you believe you're worth and proving it to a client who is willing to pay that, in my personal experience and opinion.
And not to be too verbose, I apologize, but the other half of the answer is, that's what I make in audio. I'm a visual artist, I do graphic design, web design, marketing, branding. I have like a multimedia agency. So I have like website maintenance, people pay $350 a month. I have like 7 or 8 of those people. I'm not really doing anything. It's like passive income. I have like Google PPC campaigns, that's passive income. Meta ads is passive. So I've created all this passive income around me. So if something's it's not popping in January, I'm okay. I can pay my mortgage. And I would encourage all of you to figure out what are my superpowers and then like nurture that. Do you ever see Iron Man shooting Hawkeye's bow and arrow? No. That's not his superpower. Iron Man flies and shoots these things, whatever that is. Each superhero, do your superpower. Because guess what? When you get on a team, y'all will be the Avengers. I just made that up. But it's true, right? You'll be the best you can be when you use your superpowers. Don't try to do things you aren't good at. So diversify yourself. Be the audio engineer. Make $125 an hour. But what are your other superpowers? And I'm asking you right now, what are your other superpowers?
Kind of like what you said with website stuff. I do like AI websites.
Sick. So there is a man who can diversify himself, and he can make money on the left while he's doing audio engineering on the right. I highly recommend that. And some of the teachers here will disagree with me. They say, no. You be the best at your niche thing that you do. So again, it's what's best for you, but that's what works for me.
I would say, man, as I said before, versatility. Like, this man does not do one thing for work, right? And that's okay. It's not about just doing one thing and saying, oh, I only had an 8-hour gig today, and now what? It's like, nah, dude, find a way to generate some capital. You've got a brain, you've got a computer, and you are capable, more than capable, to find this stuff and to literally
Absolutely.
generate this kind of monetary compensation, what have you. Versatility, finding a way to where on Monday, if it's not so busy, I've got this coming in, and I've got a session on Tuesday, and then I'm doing a mix on Friday, and in the in-betweens, you're doing the other thing. Now, what's really beneficial, in my opinion, of course, with having a background like we do here at Crass, is that if you've got a session on Monday, and you're doing a mix on Wednesday, and then maybe you're meeting new clients on Friday to pitch them on a new package. Those off days, and I know everybody hates when I say this, man, dude, go find a live sound gig.
Boom.
Like literally,
Yes.
you have everything in here that people pay people to do. I have a student, and I'm just shaking your head, gentlemen back there. I see you guys. Nah, I'm not gonna make money. That's crazy. Here's the thing, you guys. I had a graduate from 2 years ago. His day gig is a 5-hour shift, and they pay him $600 for that. You could quantify that down hourly if you'd like, or you could just say, okay, that's his rate. That's just like 1 or 2 days out of the week that he goes and makes a K. The other time, he's finding ways to keep himself valuable.
3 of the biggest engineers I know in New York City got picked up doing live sound. And they said, oh, do you also work in the studio?
You don't say.
And now they do both. It's true.
Thanks, Hannah. Be versatile, y'all. All right, you guys. Josh literally has a flight this evening, and the last thing I want is to make this gentleman late, and I'm also nervous about it. So you guys, please, one more time for Josh for coming out. Thank you so much.
Woo! Thank you guys. I'm grateful for all of you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. I love you all. Thanks to Crass and AES. I'll see you on the other side of the glass.